Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brand Groupies podcast backstage series where we interview inspiring guests who have spent their careers working with brands, from creatives to media and marketing experts, aka the real brand groupies. Our mission is to continue to inspire entrepreneurs with a behind-the-scenes look into what really goes into building and rocking brands. So I am so excited today because we are having our first ever roundtable, and I've been thinking about this for so long. And the first one to kick it off is the PR Groupies Roundtable, Public Relations Roundtable. So I have three incredible PR gurus with us today, and I'm going to introduce everyone, and then I'm really looking forward to a fun PR conversation because we have so much to talk about. So our first guest is Christina Gorini. Christina is a born publicist thanks to her bubbly nature, outgoing personality, and keen attention to detail. Christina will soon be joining the team at Brand Style Communications as a Vice President of Client Services. In that role, she will be responsible for building and managing the execution of the PR roadmaps that are so essential to each campaign's success, development and maintenance of relationships with key media and influencers, and so much more. Christina is a graduate of Monmouth University and lives in Little Silver, New Jersey with her husband and her daughter. So welcome, Christina.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for
having me, Carey.
And we welcome our second guest, Deirdre Lopian. Deirdre is an award-winning social media strategist, public relations, and marketing professional. As the founder of Deirdre Lopian Public Relations Agency, her passion is helping brands leverage the power of diverse and inclusive storytelling by creating campaigns that truly connect with and reflect the audiences they serve. Throughout her career, she has developed and executed memorable large-scale campaigns and events for iconic brands, including Live Nation, WWE, HBO Sports, UFC, Miss America Organization, Feld Entertainment, and the NHL. She currently serves as President-elect and Communications Chair for the Public Relations Society of America, New Jersey chapter. Welcome, Deirdre.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you. And our third guest is Lauren Genest. And as the Vice President of Public Relations at Brand Groupies, Lauren has 20 years of PR and events expertise in New York and New Jersey. She has an extensive range of experience working with corporate brands like Hermes, Burberry, New Balance, Casa de Campo Resort, Intermix, Rent the Runway, and Ula Johnson. At Brand Groupies, Lauren spearheads our PR division, working with B2B service brands and C-suite leaders in the commercial, architecture, design, and corporate services industries, including Mancini, Duffy, and Encon. She is a graduate of the University of Delaware and has been featured in the New York Times. Lauren is also a mom of two and lives in Little Silver. So welcome, Lauren.
Thanks, Carey.
So I'm really excited to really dive into PR. We have so many things to talk about. And I was just going to read the definition of public relations because I feel like a lot of people ask, like, what exactly is PR? Mm-hmm. So it is, PR is the practice of deliberately managing the release and spread of information between an individual or an organization, such as a business, government agency, or a nonprofit organization, and the public in order to affect the public perception. So our industry has changed throughout the years, and we're really, going to talk about how it's evolved. So I guess let's start. Christina, you want to tell us a little bit about your company and your background and what types of PR services you offer?
Sure. Well, today I'm a lady of leisure because as of yesterday, I left a company that I was at for almost 10 years. So today is a different kind of day than it was yesterday. But as of yesterday, I was working with brands that are in the lifestyle space, health, medical, pharma, just all different aspects of that, and really helping my clients figure out the how of what they're doing. I'm working with a lot of amazing female thought leaders. And then on Monday, I will be going over to Brand Style Communications as a VP of Client Services. And there I am going to be heading up 4 really big accounts, getting my hands dirty. I'll be working with a company that's revolutionizing the car wash industry, which who doesn't love a fucking car wash? It's really, I'm really excited. I'm, excited for this next chapter. I'm excited for this next, journey and cracking my shell and seeing if I'm as good as I think I am. And, that's what's going on with me. So,
Amazing.
thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. Deirdre?
So I started my career in sports and entertainment, and in Atlantic City at Boardwalk Hall in the Atlantic City Convention Center. I worked on the grand reopening of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Hall, and I moved on to the NHL, and about 10 years ago now, I started my own consulting agency, and my focus is, while I do offer the quintessential services of, media, my area of focus and my passion is social media strategy as well as brand strategy. So when brands are launching it, when companies are starting to launch and they're looking for someone to identify their message and their overall story, that is where I come in and help that. And I've worked on a lot of rebranding campaigns. As far as industry, my industries are diverse. I've worked a lot in hospitality, obviously still stuck with the sports, worked on 2 films, and as a unit publicist, launched a fitness brand, relaunched a healthcare center, and the list goes on. Recently, I worked with a new author that I believe you know, Jessica Varian Carroll. Jessica Maldonado. She's married, and so I stick with the work. I know everybody says, "Oh, what's your niche? What's your niche industry?" And I'm like, there's no niche industry, but there's niche work that I do.
Okay.
And obviously, and events are my favorite still.
Awesome. Yes, they're coming back.
They're coming back.
We'll be
Can't
good.
wait.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And Lauren?
So I have about 20 years of experience in the fashion industry working for global fashion corporate brands. And about a year ago, I joined Brand Groupies with you, Carey, and we are really taking our fashion experience and I think putting that fashion stamp on more traditional businesses who are 50 to 100 years old and really looking at it through that fashion aesthetic. We work with B2B brands in the architecture, engineering, HVAC worlds. Like I said, they've all been in business for many decades, and we've actually coined the term So PR, where we offer both social and PR for a 360-degree marketing approach. We literally, dive into every aspect of our clients' brands. We become their biggest groupies. We don't hesitate to get our hands dirty, whether it be they need help with a Super Bowl pool or their phone hold messaging or what their email signatures will look like. We very much believe that every touch point for the brand should be consistent and should align with those brand pillars. And we also do personal branding for C-suite executives. We actually just launched a podcast for one of our clients, so that's been a really fun project to work on in 2021.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. I also wanted to mention that, PR is not a glamorous job. It is so much hard work, and you really have to, it's like a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you have to be all in, and you really have to love it. So that brings me to my next question. You are like a superhero, So what's your superpower? What do you think, Christina? Because your PR superpower.
My PR superpower is, I hope it comes off as confidence, not cocky, but a client will come to me and tell me what they want, and I will deliver. So last year, in 2019, I had a client, had never been on TV before. He was a young doctor specializing in hair restoration, and he said in our first meeting, "I want to be on the Dr. Oz show." And I looked at him and I was like, okay, you're young, you're good looking. All right, you got a couple checkpoints, but let's talk about what you're doing. And he, through unraveling the onion and really getting deep into who he was, I learned that he was working on a revolutionary hair restoration service that was going to change the game and still is. And in February of 2020, right before the shutdown, he filmed with the Dr. Oz show. So,
awesome.
and thank you. So,
How hard that is.
no, it is. And it took 6 months to get him there. But as I'm in the green room and we're being hooked up with his camera and I'm sorry, his microphone, I looked around and I had created the scenario that I knew he needed. My aunt, who happened to be a really good candidate and a good patient for him, was my patient. So I created that. So my superpower is you tell me what you want, you trust me, and you listen to me. Let me do what I do, and I can make your dreams come true. But that's really that's my superpower. Is I'm a dream maker.
Love it. I love that.
I love it.
Thank you.
I literally don't know how to follow that. I thought about this question, and I went in a completely separate direction where, I feel like my superpower is, empathy combined with research and analytics. Because one thing brands always need to understand is whether you're launching a brand or whether you're launching a social media strategy is how do you solve your audience's pain points? And they have this in their head how they do it, but they never actually consult the audience and they never actually do the research. They don't do the competitive research and they don't do the audience research. They don't do the focus groups. They don't do anything like that. And so that is, when I come in, that is what I look for, no matter what my job is, and I'm able to relate to them and do further research and then analyze it and really help them hit that mark. And then it's afterwards that they're like, oh.
Hey,
yeah, and
that's
I'm like,
a superpower.
Yes, yeah. And
Definitely.
especially because, and now that you say it is, because I think of so many times I've been told, I didn't even think of that. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's why I'm here.
That's why you're
Yes.
We created this product, we created this service, and we just thought, here you go. And people are going to come running to it. And I'm like, no, they need to form an emotional bond with it.
Yeah.
And that is where I help. So
Yeah, I
that's
love
my
that.
No,
That's
I
such a
love
great-
that. That is a superpower.
Great point. Awesome.
Those are both hard to follow.
I know.
Dun, dun, dun. I think my superpower would be client relations. I love to get to know our clients. I love working closely and getting to kind of, like you said, Christina, peel back the onion, learn about the different layers of them and their expertise and then their lifestyle and what they do when they're not at work, and really take and reveal all of those to the media over time in a very strategic way. And I think, we were talking about this with a client the other day. I think responsiveness and being on it and being a right hand. A client just texted me and said, hey, didn't you mention that you have a really good travel agent? And I said, oh yeah, let me send you her information. So we want to be our client's right hand, both I think within the office space, but also for them to think about and feel the passion that we have for their brands, like a true groupie.
Yeah. Yes.
True.
I like that.
Groupies. You really have to be.
We really
I'm
are.
your groupie.
On it, right? There for those are all great superpowers. I love it. And so, one of the questions I had that I really want to dive into is how PR has evolved. I think when I was a journalism major, PR was technically my focus. Back in the day, I remember we didn't even have emails, so I'm sorry, I'm dating myself, but we would, then, it was just all about the press release, and it was just sending it out, and depending on what industry you were in, you were really, focused, and it's changed so much throughout the years. So I want to kind of look at how it's evolved and really what you're doing now, what initiatives you're taking now to help your clients in this new world of PR, because it's still alive and kicking and it's not going anywhere. So
How much time do we have?
I know,
Because
right?
it's been
I know.
exponential.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that I've enjoyed as PR has evolved is really getting into this thought leadership campaigns for my clients and really looking at them as leaders, as people, and I just happen to work with a lot of working mothers. I represented the co-founders of Motherly and the CEO of Nanit, the world's smartest baby monitor, and really, especially with COVID, we learned it brought parents to their knees, and it really made us look at how we work, how we live, how we co-parent, to get either whether you're with your spouse or not with your ex-spouse, and really just look at the big picture. And I have loved letting my clients share with me what makes them tick and how they do certain things. And, so I love this like thought leadership. I love when CEOs are coming out from behind the brand and sharing themselves and talking about how hard it is to fundraise, how hard it is to manage a team remotely, how crazy it is, but also talk about the good things of how they are building a community and they're doing X, Y, and Z. So I have loved that portion of it, but I was in PR when, I don't know if anyone else uses Cision, but Cision is a database that you use to build media lists. I mean, like, there were books, spiral-bound books that came to the office, and you flip through them to find your, that was my first PR job where, that's what I did. And I faxed, okay, for all you little millennials, I
bring that
faxed a press release, okay? So let's go back in time, ladies and gentlemen. So, it has changed so much, and, but and social media has changed, and I'm sure someone else will bring that up, so I won't bore you with, what my thoughts are on that. But, but we have to embrace the change. I've been in this industry for over 15 years. I love it. I'm a dinosaur in some aspects, but I really have enjoyed the evolution of PR, and you can't sit still. You got to be responsive, as Lauren has said, and, so I'm in it to win it, so thank you.
That's great. I remember when I worked, when I was in Italy, my boss actually sent me to her house to fax all day long.
Oh my God.
It was like
100%.
10 hours.
Yeah.
I just sat there and I just faxed. And I think she had like no food in the house. And I don't know how I ate. And I just faxed for hours.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I think we got, 1 or 2 hits off of that. But it was like
One or two.
I was
10 hours of
locked in the
faxing.
house.
Or even now, like, calling. I say to some of our younger assistant account executives, I'm like, okay, can you get on the phones? And they're like, nobody wants me to call them. And I'm like, yes, they do.
Yeah,
call them. But
they
you
do.
know what? Sometimes they're actually right. People don't want them
Yeah,
to call.
there
So
are.
it's like
I
this,
know.
but I'm like, no, I used to call. I remember the first PR call I made. It was about the Brazilian butt lift with Dr. Lefkowitz, I think his last name was. And I had to call beauty editors and talk about the the founder of the Brazilian butt lift. And it was, I learned a lot. I learned a shit about butts.
I used to do the Wonder Bra.
Oh my
So
God,
I had
right.
to call,
Yeah. No, talk
Did
about
you
I was like,
really?
do not, and bras and underwear. And I was like, you do not have to send the samples back. We would get the samples back. Oh, it was like,
Keep them,
I was
please.
like, please keep
don't
those.
send those back.
so. What about you, Deirdre?
Speaking of faxes, I mean, I remember, when I was at Boardwalk Hall, that's where I started my career, it was like a 10-hour job. And I remember our fax machine was up front where the receptionist was, and I'd pull up a seat next to her, and it would literally be like we had to program the fax machine for different journalists, whether it's state, regional, nationwide, and especially like when you're announcing an artist or a concert, you have to. And then the clip books came in. That was also my responsibility.
Yes.
I mean, and I was going to jokingly bring you ladies like a giant clip book, and I was like,
I almost brought my Rolodex.
Oh my God. Oh my.
I had these 2 Rolodex. I had the flippy one, and then I had the one where it was like nice
yes,
and organized.
The flippy ones would always like come off the hinges
Yes.
too.
Yep.
Did you guys ever have to? My first job out of college was at Escada, this German luxury fashion brand, and each morning for the first hour of the morning I had to read page 6.
Yep.
I had to read all the gossip rags, WWD, and then pull out and print and collate the articles and put them on all the executives' desks.
Yes, I had that
By
exact
10 a.m.
job.
That was literally that's how important print was.
Yeah.
And I think, when I look back over the last 20 years, print was everything. But also you think about there was no digital media.
No,
and I'm sure that's hard for
There was
younger
no
people
niche
to
bloggers.
imagine.
I know.
But I remember when I was in the fashion industry. So I remember when people started leaving major posts at Vogue and Elle and Harper's Bazaar to go to a no-name startup website. Glam.com.
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
the editor, I won't say her name, but I can remember she left and everyone was scratching their heads like, what is she doing? Why would she leave? She's at Elle. And I think one thing that we did really well at the agency that I worked at for 14 years was we ran towards those people to find out what and why they were doing it. While many other people in the industry kind of shunned them and forgot about them initially, we were like, what is this? What's this whole blogging world? What's digital media? When do you want to meet with us? How do we have to deliver the news to you differently? And all of a sudden, the news cycle changed. I always say we used to have kind of the summers were very quiet and they were great because without a 24/7 news cycle, they'd close the big September issues in June, and then, you would just have a kind of relaxed summer. But then as soon as digital, the way we delivered information was born. Lookbooks were no longer as important as, delivering things in a digital photo for all those slideshows and stuff. So I think that's one really big shift. And another was, I think, the dawn of influencers. I think, that was a world, that of course connects back to social, but from a PR lens, we were engaging with these fashion influencers on a daily basis, trying to get them to wear, new designers from us and without, paying them, and trying to wrangle how we could do it. And then of course that whole, they started getting agents, and then I remember when,
it's crazy.
And then COVID affected and impacted that whole business as
and
well.
now we have influencers who dance and tell us things, like, which I have lots of questions about. And I wrote a piece for Reagan PR Daily back in late 2015, going into 2016, that influencer marketing was going to explode. And I always kind of felt like, wow, was I onto something? I was like, and I always go back to that because, influencer marketing has evolved exponentially and then evolved again, because then you have to look for the authenticity of the influencer and the real-time engagement, as opposed to just throwing up a dance on TikTok explaining like how to water your plants.
And then I think like the final phase of that is what we're doing right now. For me, the most exciting part about my job is we work with such cool leaders, and I love now getting them on podcasts. They're so much more comfortable doing a podcast and sharing their story and speaking authentically about what they're so good at doing. One of our clients is on very regularly, and he doesn't even have to rehearse or anything. He's like, throw me on as many as you want. Let's just get these done. And that then feeds back to this So PR, that we've coined, which really then helps.
I'm so jealous
feed.
of that. And how can I hijack it without you coming after me for copyright infringement? Like, when you told me that, I was like, oh my God, she's a genius. And how do I take it from her? It's evolved into the audio, like Clubhouse.
Exactly.
And now you can bring, and I'm sure the owners of Clubhouse, the creators, are going to do this, where they're trying to monetize it in that way. And now, of course, Facebook and Instagram are jumping on the bandwagon, as well as LinkedIn, which I'm kind of curious to see what Facebook puts out, because it's going to be broken for the first month, and then they're going to have to fix the glitches.
Totally.
No shade, Facebook. No shade. No. But and and that's the thing too. It's like our storytelling has changed, because it's no longer just reaching out to radio, TV, and sending out the press releases that way. And I've even gone to online pitching. I pitch through Twitter, and I'm not ashamed.
100%.
That's a great tip.
It's when it comes time to journalists, the landscape of the journalism industry has changed. Media, from newspapers to magazines and niche magazines. That's all evolved.
I know. Well, even the world of freelancers.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, there's more freelancers.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's amazing, but but then it's like they're working on weird schedules. Like the 9 to 5 doesn't exist anymore. They're like, I'm like, when they say I need it by end of day, I'm like, well, what is your end of day? Because my end of day might be a little different than your end of day. Is yours midnight? Because that's fine. I'll work with that. But I need to know, because if you need it by 5, it's crazy. I mean, the world of freelancers, the world of influencers, all these ERs, this world.
Ever since Instagram allowed anybody to put public figure under their name, things have changed.
I know.
It's very much,
or that blue check. I mean, everyone wants that blue check.
I just, is that I get that. How many times a day do you get that question? Ming, you got the blue check. We know.
Yeah.
It's like, I know somebody with a blue check.
He's really our Superman.
He is. We're all your groupies.
As you know.
And it's, I forget what I was going to say, because I'm so excited about Ming getting the blue check. Well, I was going to say, I was going to say, how many times do you get clients that the first thing, I used to hear the first thing was, how do I get on Letterman? And I'm like, you don't tell me why you want me to pitch Letterman. And I know I'm dating myself with Letterman, but that was an extra.
No, I would get Oprah if I had $1 for
That's what I was going to say. We used to
I
get
got a client on
Oprah's
Oprah.
favorite thing.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
And-
I repped Not Your Daughter's Jeans, or now NYDJ.
Okay.
And they were on Oprah, and we got them on Oprah, and it still wasn't good enough. So
That's- And now they want the blue check. Well, we
Yeah.
need the blue. Like, why do you who? It's nobody's trying to impersonate you. That's how the blue check was created for journalists. First of all,
Yeah.
that's where it started. And now everybody that called how do I get a viral video? How do I get a blue check? And how do I get on XYZ like Joe Rogan's podcast? You know what? Why do you want that? You're not, and they don't realize. They just see this. They don't realize how important niche bloggers are, niche podcasters. They don't realize that you're going to see way more success if you and ROI from going and me reaching out to somebody that is in your niche that can help tell your story to an audience that wants to hear your story, and they're just looking at this shiny object of I want this, I want that, and.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Knowing who the audience is and who are the decision makers in their, in their industry.
And
And I
where
think
are
working with
they?
their clients to set expectations has always been a really, I think that's
goes back to client services.
exactly.
Client
That's all
services.
part of client
Yeah.
services.
Yes. And PR for sure.
Or PR therapy.
I feel like that sometimes. I do.
Big time.
It is. And speaking of your, accomplishments, I wanted to ask you all, one of the biggest accomplishments or projects that you're most proud of in your PR career.
Do you want to go first, Deirdre?
Now that the
course.
spotlight's on
Okay.
it. I feel, and this is such a hard answer because I've worked, on so many projects, like you said, people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes. They think glamour. And especially when I was in sports and entertainment, they see glamour. They see who my bosses are.
Yeah.
They see the artists I work with, and they're like, this is great. And I'm like, I am sweating till the artist says the first note on stage. Know that, number one. But when I think I had to really just brag about my client, Jessica Maldonado. She, she is a perpetual entrepreneur, successful, award-winning. And she has a local business called Organista, and where she goes in homes and she organizes for you. And I know that I just need her to organize my life, which she does not have as a service. And I will be talking to her about that.
Yeah.
But one thing, she launched a book. She is an independent author. She worked with an independent publisher, and she launched this book. And she gave me goals that I was with a smile on my face, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. In my head, I'm like, oh dear God. I literally had 2 weeks to pull this off and help her pull this off. But what I loved about working with her, not only we surpassed her goals. Her book ended up on the shelves of Barnes and Noble, which again, unheard of.
Awesome.
Yes,
And her,
amazing.
Yeah, but what I will say is not only is she a hustler, but when she's that dream client that you want. Because look, we've all had clients that, the retainer check comes in and it clears, but they don't return our calls, they don't return our emails, and we're still chugging away, and they're just like, yeah, here you go. Jessica was right by my side. Her excitement made me want to work harder and do more and get more excited. That's what when a client is as excited and as involved in their campaign, and she even asked questions. So I wrote out her strategy. And look, we've all given the presentations to clients where you're like, she wanted it explained. She wanted to know the process. She wanted to be involved. And that is true to her testament of who she is as a human being. And but that's where her success comes from. She needs to be a part of it. And that's the kind of that's why I say when it comes to success stories, it's that, because her excitement made me excited.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
made me want to show up and made me want to show up harder and more and let's do this, let's do that.
Yes.
And everything that we did, she was so excited for it. You would I was like, Jess, it's a mention.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm happy, but we could do more.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, this is great. And you're just like, I love you. I need you to please.
I wish all
It's
clients
a two-way
could be like
street.
that.
I said it to her
For
a
the
thousand
success.
Yeah.
It's a team
No, it's
effort,
amazing.
It
It
really
is.
is.
That's a good
When you
client.
have
That
that
is
back and
awesome. And
forth.
she's awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jessica.
Yes.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah.
So early in my PR career, I did the PR for a plastic surgeon.
You have all the good ones.
He's
Like
a very
I would be like,
famous, he's very famous now. His name is Dr. Salzhauer, if you're listening, now also known as Dr. Miami. But he came to me on a snow day. So I was, in the city usually every day. And this day our office was closed. And he calls me on my cell phone. At the time it was a Nextel. And he said, I have this idea. I want to write a book for kids about their mothers going through a mommy makeover, and it's going to be like they're wrapped in a cocoon and then they emerge like a butterfly. And I was like, that is awesome. So I said, yeah, I'll put a strategy together. Now I was like low man on the totem pole at this agency. Like I had basically just started, but my senior account executive had left, so it was like trial by fire. So I went to my bosses the next day after the snow melted and said, he wants to do this. And they were like, absolutely not. That will kill his brand. And they were like against it. And I was like, well, I already told him I would. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. And so I was like, okay, so he was like, he goes, well, let's just do it. He's like, he's like, I'll pay you your salary if it doesn't work out. And I was like, oh my God, this is a disaster.
No pressure.
And so I went out and I pitched. And for one day in the city, we rode around in a limo. And he was on the Today Show. He was on GMA.
Oh, my God.
He was on Inside Edition. He got 4 thumbs down by The View. No. But he was on in the New York Times. And it just taught me so much to trust my gut.
Yes.
Like I knew that there was a story. And I don't begrudge my boss at the time or my director at the time. They were nervous. I mean, it was self-published. He was, this, unknown doctor at the time. But I was like, yeah, let's do it. No problem. I mean, like, I had no fear. Like, I was, whatever. But it was such a learning experience. And as he's on the Plaza with Kathy Lee and Hoda on the Today Show, I was like, I can't believe I'm here. And it was really cool. So that is like amazing. A memory that will, like, stick in my mind forever. And just getting that phone call from him trusting me with his idea, it was really cool. And I, like, take that with me through all my clients now, that I trust my gut. When it feels good, it's the right thing.
Yep.
So, that's mine. So.
Yeah.
Carey and I lead with that now. I think so much after everything is.
I need to hear fashion stories.
Yes.
Like fashion PR is on another level.
We need like a whole day.
That's like a book.
It's really.
I always say to Carey, if things don't work out, we've always got that book in our back pocket.
100%.
Yeah, I want to hear some
So
good
many.
ones because, I could say that, being in sports entertainment, everybody's like, you had the best PR job and you have the hardest PR job. I'm like, no, fashion. I was like, and those girls are sharks and sharp. And I'm like,
sharks and sharp is right.
It's like, and so now
Go ahead.
it's your moment. Spill the tea. Tell us.
So funny. We have so many stories we could tell. Just going back to PR and the accomplishments, I think for me, my favorite projects when I look back are the ones that brands that I got to rebuild, maybe that came to me after 10 or 12 years in business, and they were ready to go big and rebrand and go in a different direction. And when I think back through my career, I think about Intermix, working with them for years to try to redevelop their business, taking them from like this mix of high-low and really amplifying and opening so many stores with them and the leaders, the brothers who were behind them. And then Ulla Johnson was another huge success story. She came to me at 12 years, not me, but our agency, and we worked really closely with her to help build her brand from, I think three employees to being on multiple floors of an office on Lafayette. And it was just so much fun to reveal the different aspects of her lifestyle. She's such a talented designer. So that was really, really fun to be a part of. For, I think, 5 or 6 years, I worked closely with her. But I think now taking those skills and applying them to the C-suite executives in a totally different industry. We were so rooted in fashion for such a long time, and Carey and I love working with brands in the AEC space. They really trust us. Yep. They know, most of them, one of them in particular has been in business for 50-some years, and they had never had PR. They've never had anyone internally doing marketing. So even though we don't sit at their office every day, we really are that leg for them, and they lean on us and they trust us. And, same for our other clients. We're really, really fortunate to work with people that are lovely and trust us and really encourage us to do what we love to do.
Trust is a huge factor,
Yeah.
you know, especially with brands that they've never had PR and marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've been in that space more often than I care to admit because it gets stressful. It gets, you know, like, they need to understand, like, okay, well, they're like, well, you know, you sent out this tweet, but it only has like 1 like. And I'm like, it's okay, you didn't have digital space before me, so we're okay with that. Like, you find yourself educating because you have to build that trust with the client, and it's a constant educational, you know, sitting down at the table and allowing them into our world because they're allowing us into their world and us and getting to know their brand and forming an emotional connection with their brand. So, you know, and the trust is just so important because sometimes, you know I've had clients where, you know, there's like that uncomfortable conversation where they're like, well, this isn't working. And I'm like, it's been a week.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
it's been an hour and a half.
Yep.
Like, and we set the expectations and we talk about that. And I'm very big on that. But I feel like, I know, and I just want to say, like, in my experience, like, when you set the expectations, it still sometimes it goes out the window a little bit. Like, where does that expect? Like, and it becomes like, you know, well, this is like, we didn't have, you know, nobody's calling, and I'm like, well, we didn't, you know, really do an official campaign. We're getting you started, and we're getting the feelers out there. Like, you got to build it, you know, and so the trust factor with clients is so important, and I think that, you know, that in and of itself is a job.
Yeah, I think it's tough in the till you get the first couple placements, maybe in the first placement or that first, like, then they start to trust you. But the minute they sign, it is like, it's yours to lose.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like, it really is yours to lose. And you just have to keep them engaged, over communicate, you know, really let them into the steps. Like, I talk to an editor about a client that's new. I tell them, like, I literally shoot them an email and say, hey, I just chatted with X, Y, and Z about you, because a lot of my clients, like, I was their first publicist. They are, like, and I'm going back to, like, PR 101 with them and really, like, teaching them, like, what I'm doing, because either someone told them that they need PR, or someone, you know, they thought that they needed it. For some reason, they came across my desk, and I just need to give them the information of why they're working with us. And then the first placement hits, and then they're excited, and then they want more. And, you know, it's, you know, but it's good. It's, you know, but when they first sign it, the first month, I always say, is the hardest. It really is the hardest. So,
Yeah, definitely.
because it's yours to lose, you know?
Yeah. And the other thing is, on a day-to-day basis, there's so much work in doing the researching, the lists, you know, to even buy the database,
crazy.
to have, you know, have the journalists and editors at your disposal and create those lists, and then, you know, just the time and the attention to detail, and also the you know, the individual customized emails. You can't just blast something out. You have to research. So I don't know if anyone wants to talk about, you know, just pitching an editor, what that looks like, just because it's not just like, let's just do it. There's research, there's strategy. So I don't know.
For me, I do a combination of social media, getting to know them, where they are. Because now with COVID, like, I have an editor that was in Charleston this past week, and I didn't want to bother her, so I had to set myself a reminder to say, all right, Julie's coming back from Charleston on Monday. So, you know, it's, you know, like, you know, and it looks like I'm stalking this girl, but, you know, but it's, you know, the databases are important. You need them. But I think that, thank goodness for social media and LinkedIn and Twitter, like, people are so forthcoming with what their email address is, but sometimes just knowing the email address isn't good enough. You know, you have to know what they like, what they, you know, like, I have a contact at WCBS 880 Health and Wellness Radio, Pat Farnack, I love you. And she left New York. She retired from CBS, but still does her morning show with them. And she left New York, and I was like, oh, I'm sure she's missing New York. So I sent her on from Goldbelly, this, like, kind of like lox and bagels, like, really like a New York City breakfast.
That's awesome.
And, you know, because I knew that she was probably, like, missing, you know, whether, and her and her husband enjoyed it. They sent me a photo, and it's like, just like knowing, like, what they're personally up to, like, it speaks volumes, like, you know. And when I sent her an email that I was leaving Victory PR, she sent me an email that was so, like, heartwarming, and, like, we've never met. Like, I don't know, I really, like, I know what she looks like, but I've never seen her eyes in front of me. And the fact that we have such a strong relationship, and, you know, so I always say to our younger girls coming up in the PR world, like, you have to research, you have to follow them on Instagram, you have to really like know what they're doing when they're not working, like,
Right.
you know, and if it's important to you, you'll do it, you know, and that's really what it's about. But, and then you have to look at it as a blessing that you can get this inside scope into their life.
Yes.
Like I always say, like, I'm happy that all our world is on display because now I can know how to
Easier.
touch you
Yes.
from different touch points, and I can, you know, like even like I'm doing some work with Genest in Red Bank, and we just sent packages to 2 editors. One is Hadley Keller, who works on the home store issue for December. Hadley, if you're listening, Nest wants to be in that issue, and we just sent you those beautiful tumblers. So you know, it's just. But I knew that she, like, what her style was. I was like, no, Kelly, she's the exact opposite of you. She is a, you know, she likes color, she likes patterns, she like is, you know, a millennial. What do they call it? Maximalist. So you know, so she and Jenny put together this beautiful little package for her, and it was great. But thank God we know that because they're not just these girls sitting at a desk.
You're right.
You know, these introverted editors anymore. They're people with a heartbeat and a pulse. So you know, it's good.
Yeah,
it's really
that's
good.
good.
Yeah, that's how I make it work, you know. And I use Cision, and I use melt water, and I use muck rack, and all the, you know, and you know, all those things. But you can get by without having those things. You just got to be. It may be a little bit harder, but the knowledge that you're going to learn is priceless,
invaluable, especially during COVID.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we aren't out seeing people anymore at events and networking and doing desk sides. You know, all of that went away for the last 13 months. So. Really had to pivot the way you interacted with people.
Definitely.
Yeah. Because used to meet people.
Yes,
oh my God.
exactly.
Or take them for a nice meal.
Or do lunch with them. Or go to a great breakfast.
Or, we used to send car services to take editors home to their house. It was like such a nice thing because like it would pick them up right at their office, and especially editors that like moved out of to the burbs. You know, they were like, "Thank you so much," all on the brand, but like. No one's doing like
just going a step further.
No one's doing that because no one's going to their office. No one needs a ride home. You know,
exactly.
One brand that I love, they did, which could be good for your client. They were organizing editors' houses. Like they would, you know, so they would send like because now all these beauty editors and fashion editors are getting all the products and things sent to their homes.
That's
so it's
true,
like taking over their personal spaces. So Heather Muir is a beauty director at Real Simple and Health, and she had an organizer come and kind of like organize her beauty products to help her kind of like navigate that. And it was done by, I think, like a brand like Olay hired them to do that. So, you know, there's a nice little partnership there for Jessica, you know, so organize your life and for an editor would be great. So
that is
that's
an
a great
opportunity.
idea.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
I know. And anything else you're doing now to reach editors? Or
a lot of
pitch
what
stories?
I do is digital. So, I mean, the days of, I mean, I still pitch, but I would say infrequently. I more or less build the newsroom for the client. So I do the opposite, where I'm getting their newsroom ready and everything, you know, from their social media to their website, which would always, for me, is like you need to have your online branded newsroom. But also, too, what I can bring to the table to piggyback off what you said, and is, you know, it's been so long since, like, you know, when I was in sports entertainment, like there's your niche editors, there's your niche journalists, there's this.
Totally.
And because I'm a consultant and I'm in various industries, my list varies, but there's also times when I basically have to stalk and we'll call it research the journalist.
Positive pressure, I call it.
Look for stories they've done. You know, you want to find out about them and you know, and why they would be good to pitch, you know, your story to, your client's story to. And so those days of me having like a full like list, I do bring a list with me, but I will say, you know, I know that it's faux pas in our industry because I'm often told this when you don't have a list, and I'm like, but I do, but it's not, you know. I build my client stories so people come to them and want to
There
write
is
the
too
article.
much pressure on the media database.
I agree. I totally
There is, and I
agree.
I feel like that's another way that things have evolved, right?
Yes,
that
big
used
time,
to be
big time.
I mean, how many times, like even like you'd look when an RFP came out or when you're job searching, it's like must have database and fashion fashion. Like you must, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't have, like, not anymore, I mean, I know, but the thing is you can get it.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
get it
of
online.
course,
You can
yeah.
get it from Muck Rack. You can get it
Right.
from Cision, or it was Vocus before Cision. I
Oh
had
my
Vocus.
God. Oh my God.
And
Taking
Wow.
me back.
I know, and and then it's also the research on on social media
Yeah.
and
Right.
finding
Totally.
it,
Yes.
and that's so that's another way. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that to the table because as the girl that has a list, but it's not as
Yeah.
long as
Sure.
brands think it is.
Yeah.
Quality
Yeah.
over
Oh, I was
quantity.
just about to
Yes.
totally.
Sorry.
I always say that.
Yeah, it is.
Totally,
It's true.
totally.
It's
And
true.
it's all about your relationships and
100%.
building those, throughout the years. I just remember having to really build. I mean, back in the day, I just
Yes.
remember going to exercise classes, like boxing with an editor,
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
she
Yep.
wanted to do. I know
No.
you went on
Yeah.
some trips, like
Yeah.
surfing
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
all sorts
No,
of.
my go-to was Paint Box down on Crosby. I
Oh,
was
I love
every
Paint
Box.
yeah.
My
oh
old
God, I
office
miss
is
it.
right near
Oh my
there.
God,
It's right down the street.
If you were an editor
Yes.
and I kind of wanted to get to know you, you and I were getting a
Yeah.
Manny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. I loved it, and I mean, because Paint Box was such an experience. It was built by an editor. I mean, Al Langston, I think, built it. I'm not sure, but she, great experience. But like, that's over. You know,
I
you got to
know.
think of
I
other
know.
ways.
So
And
it's
I think it's going to come
creative.
back. Like,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's
Yep.
going to come back, and so.
Totally.
I look forward to that.
To get their attention. So talking about the PR accomplishments, it also comes with some crazy client stories. So I know we touched upon it. Does anyone want to share any crazy client stories?
I mean,
I have so many, but
I've had clients show up late to a live showing on WPIX. I've had client that it was another plastic surgery story. GMA is there filming in our living room. I had gotten the information from the patient coordinator from the plastic surgery's office. They ask her first question, and she literally says on camera, "Well, that's not technically true." I mean, like the producer could have wrapped it up, but she was a true professional. I was like shitting my pants and scared and like, oh my God. But through all like the crappy moments, like, you learn something, you kind of meditate inside and say, all right, everything's going to be okay. My biggest thing is it's PR, not ER.
Yeah.
No one's dying,
I know.
but
No,
it's scary.
but it felt
It's-
like that.
Yeah,
Felt like
it's
that on a
scary.
date.
It's so scary. No, your heart kind of drops into your belly and you're like, how am I going to get through this? But it's, I've gotten yelled at by clients, and it's part of the game. It's all
I know,
good,
I know.
I mean, at the moment I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Where's my rich husband? Who's going to take me away? But, but then there's so many beautiful moments that
Of
make it all
course.
worth it. But no, I've had, it's pissing off the media that I really try to avoid.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
it is, the client, yes, is so important. They are the ones that you're championing for, but I always looked at the media as also another form of my client, and I really, I take my relationships with them really serious. So I never wanted to piss those powerful people off. So,
Yes. Yeah,
so
totally.
that's really that's
Yeah.
my key to success. But no, a lot of crazy moments. But the crazy moments, there's so many good ones, and
Yes.
so. But
I
usually
know.
it's about time management. People showing up late, not
Yes.
showing up at all. The editor not calling.
Yeah.
Because time is money. You're wasting my time. Why are you doing this? The whole thing. So yeah.
managing
It's
that.
all good. It's
I
all
know,
good.
I
I know.
know.
I'm getting hot thinking about it.
I was going to say those crazy moments. Yeah, they also come at like a lesson.
Yeah,
And,
sure,
You know,
yes.
speaking of pissing off the media, so I have multiple crazy client stories. One is because pissing off the media, and I'm like, oh wait, this happened. So
It's easy to do.
and so I'm based in New Jersey. I had clients in LA. One of the clients was a USA gymnastics facility, and I had KTLA doing a live remote session. I think it was 4 a.m. because
Oh my gosh.
international gymnasts were going to be at the facility practicing for an event. And my client, this was one of her wish list when we started working together. And I'm happy, it was like it started with KTLA, and it was going to go down the list of all LA outlets that were going to be on site, but KTLA is getting
Yeah.
the exclusive. So I'm up at 4 a.m. our time, which was much earlier than I should have been, but I'm like, okay, this is really important. She needs to be there. And I'm texting her, I'm calling, I'm texting, I'm emailing, I'm reaching out to her brother, which has
Oh my
nothing
gosh.
who has nothing to do with the facility. I just happen to have his number on my phone. I'm like, where's Tanya? And I didn't hear from her, so I'm like, all right, something, I'm trying to, get the live feed from KTLA. And next thing I know, my Twitter's blowing up. And I'm like, whoa, what's this? Allie McKay, who was doing the on-site live, is telling me off on Twitter. And, she's telling me off. She's like, nice way to have, not only you on site, which I was never supposed to be on site. We went over the itinerary very specifically. She's like, but your client's a no-show.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like thinking to myself, like, how, and that's how I found out. And I just remember this wave of not only is she telling me off, which is in and of itself mortifying, but she also gained me a lot of followers.
Yeah. There's always a silver.
There's a silver lining. Silver lining.
And, and then she offered to teach me PR 101, and she went on about how unprofessional I am.
Oh my goodness.
But I am livid at my client. Livid. I mean, this was like the day before. She was like, she was prepping and, doing all the, beautification, getting the facial for her moment. And then she oversleeps.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just like, what the, how do you?
Oh my gosh.
So then this is the best part. So now I'm home. We're in the middle of a blizzard here in Jersey, by the way. I'm home mad. And trying to talk to one of the producers at KTLA to just, apologize and grovel and not ruin my relationship because this affects me. Yeah. But she, I get a text from my client and she's like, can you have him come back?
Oh my God.
And I'm just like,
I would have been like,
oh my God.
I just I had to lay down on my floor going, is she like, what like,
delusional?
I'm like, this was your moment. You were supposed to be, she was supposed to be there at 4 a.m. her time. I get up 4 a.m. my time to make sure I'm ready, make sure I'm texting her to make sure she is getting ready. Yep. And just this and I'm thinking to myself, I'm able to remotely work and have, clients attend media appearances and show up. But that was,
Wow. I know. And
you needed a vacation after that.
I just, it was, and then the fact that she was couldn't understand why moving forward, she's like, well, call them for this, pitch this. And I'm like, no. You're done.
That's it. You get one shot. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in timeout with me and with them. And then, of course, in sports and entertainment, there's always, the fun stories of, having to have MC Hammer removed from an event that he didn't have a ticket to, and it's so past his prime, and you're just you're cringing inside. It's just yeah, exactly. And then crisis PR when you're not when you're prepared for it, but not prepared for it, destroying Christina Aguilera and Justin Timberlake's equipment for their Stripped and Justified tour, and their tour gets canceled. And it all happened at your venue, and you're trying to handle the media. You're trying to get the media alert out, and somehow security let a CBS reporter in while this is going on. So CBS just put it out. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's I would have been beam me up.
And I'm working from home. It was, oh my God.
Oh man.
You do have some good ones. I just think of my client just did coke in the bathroom, and I'm trying to entertain them.
I've had that
and they're I'm the directors of this huge European men's fashion magazine, and I'm entertaining them at a club at 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
And I think I was the only girl in the place, and I was trying to entertain them. Where did they go? Oh, I don't know. Give me 2 seconds. Oh my God, I was so out of my element.
I love it.
So anyway,
amazing.
But anything else?
You got it.
I think we have so many from fashion. Lots do involve, celebrities and stuff. But one that really sticks out to me more so, I think because I can't even imagine that we did this, is we were going to launch this, what is now a very prominent tequila brand. $250 a bottle, on up, hand signed and etched, run by this this female who was very clear about how she wanted it to launch. It was her life's work to get it there, and we were going to bring it to market. But as part of bringing it to market, she felt very strongly that we should understand what it tasted like compared to the competitive set, which makes sense.
Yeah.
However, I was 7 months pregnant, and the woman running our agency, or who owned the agency, was 3 months pregnant. So we saddled up to their conference room table, me with a large bump because I was 2 months from my due date, and her with a new bump. They knew. And we did this tequila tasting, all going back to client relations, while pregnant. Of course, we spit it out, and it was just to taste and compare. But when I think about things that we did like 8 or 9 years ago, that now I would say, no, it's okay. I can get the gist. I've been doing this long enough to, be able to pitch your tequila maybe without tasting it. I think in hindsight, it's just funny what you'll do at certain stages of your career to get the account and to show that you're passionate and really be that team player.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. No, it is crazy.
It is. It is.
No, Lauren, that's a story.
That is. That is.
I definitely have way more ethics now than I did in the past.
I know.
No, exactly.
No. Well, we all survived. So
we're on here.
We're still doing it. So of course, PR has changed so much, and it's interesting because we've recently had some amazing PR interns, and it's like
we've been so
trying
fortunate.
to, explain to them, what it's like now versus back then, and also, giving them advice of what to do, moving forward. So, what advice would you give to someone who is looking to start a career in PR?
I think that when I know someone that has come to me, whether it's through LinkedIn or as an alumni of my university, I'm like, if you're gonna apply for a job, that's your first pitch. Take that as the opportunity to really show them what you're made of. So because you're gonna be pitching all day, every day. So if you can't pitch yourself and you can't show them why they should invest in you, then then what are you doing? So that's probably my biggest advice, but really just, then the cliche, it's PR, not ER, and, make sure you're having fun and, and really just, and it's a fun industry to be a part of. It's not as glamorous as, Samantha on Sex and the City makes it out to be.
God.
Or I haven't seen it, but there's a new PR show called something. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it's called. It's with the girl from True Blood. What is her name? Anna Paquin.
Okay.
But yes, it is. There's glamorous parts, but it's a lot of hard work. And if you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, then maybe it's not the job for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are my two big pieces of advice.
For sure.
Sure, I have lots. I think try in-house and try agency because it's so different. I've done both.
Yes.
And until you've done both, I don't really think you'll know where you belong. Bring a notepad everywhere.
Yes.
This is like my number one thing,
Oh
right?
my God.
Sometimes I'll be talking to our intern, I'll say, do you want to write this down?
Yeah.
Write it down.
So true.
Be a sponge. I think be resourceful. I remember my first job at Escada, I had to cross over into wholesale and sales and couture and marketing, and I would ask them how to use these different systems, and people would look at me in true fashion form like I had like 10 eyes. Like, what do you mean I have to help you?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. And I had my notepad. I wrote every single step down. And on my desktop, I started these simple word bulleted documents that were step by step how to use the wholesale system, how to transfer something from here to there, how to do this and that. And pretty soon, people in other departments started asking me for it because they were getting the same pushback.
Yes.
And then ultimately I put it in the share drive. And it was not something that anybody asked me to do. It was just something that I figured out I needed to do in order to set myself up to be successful. And
so good,
I would also say jump at every opportunity. While I was working there, worked for a mentor of mine who just didn't love the events aspects of PR. I think they made her nervous, and she basically would do a lot of the help, teaching me behind the scenes. But when it came to the night of the event, I really was able to step up and take on, dressing the women, coordinating, interacting with the photographer, getting the media alerts out, doing the pitching in the very first, 2 years of my job. And so I think, when you see an opportunity like that, that went on to set me up. At my next agency, I sort of became the go-to for events or to help events. And it gave me lots of cool opportunities to cross over into other divisions that I wouldn't have normally had access to. And so I think, just kind of keeping your radar up to see where you can kind of step in and fit in, even if it's not necessarily under your job description.
That's excellent advice.
Definitely.
I'm going to take some of that advice.
I would say find a mentor. And I say that because I think of, my first job and my boss, I looked to her as a mentor. And to to this day, we still have a relationship. We still talk. And along the way, I have picked up other mentors. And I think that is so important.
Yes.
And it's so important to have somebody to go to that, that you have a relationship with it. Because not just pick up the mentor, but nurture that relationship and meet for coffee or meet for, if they're farther away, have a phone call or a Zoom call. Just because you're in your career, you're going to need it. You're going to need somebody that knows you, that can give you unbiased advice and help you troubleshoot something or work through something. And also, the one thing my mentor taught me was to she called it making yourself valuable. She goes, you need to make yourself valuable and take advantage of every opportunity. Because what would happen is, like, she would come in my office and be like, well, we need somebody to run, our DAX board tonight, the big entry board, like when you go into Atlantic City. And I'm like, oh, like that. And I think I would make these faces. I was young and I knew everything, and that's when she sat me down and she's like, you need to take advantage of every opportunity. And I picked up so many skills. After she said that to me, I thought she was always coming down hard on me. I didn't know she was doing it because she trusted me to do it.
Sure.
And she wanted me to, expand my skill set. And I am so glad she did, because I do. I took advantage of every opportunity. It's something I still do to this day. And, when something comes my way and I'm like, I think, like, okay, I've never done that before. Can I do this? First, I want to make sure I'm not letting down the client where I'm over-promising and under-delivering. Yeah. But then it's like, you know what? I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to learn this new skill. I'm going to learn this, go and get uncomfortable. Yeah. And, so I fully support that. That is something that has helped in my career. Sometimes a little bit too much, because then you become the go-to person.
Yes.
Like, Deirdre will do it. I'm like, Deirdre's like a minute away from a nervous breakdown, but sure.
But I just wanted to touch upon what you are doing, and you had the opportunity to start your workshops with the diversity and inclusion. Oh my God, yes. And I just want you to talk about that real fast, because we didn't really touch on that, and that's really, really cool. So this is an opportunity I know that came to you, and it just kind of snowballed, and I love that aspect of PR that you're doing. So.
Yeah, so it was a little over 2-3 years ago, and I started to get disenchanted with social media. I'll be honest. I'm going to throw that out there. All of a sudden, everybody was a social media expert or guru, and those words annoy. Like, those are buzzwords that annoy me, because we are always learning, and our industry is evolving as fast as tech. We're right beside them with this evolution. And so I just really became disenchanted. Everybody was doing it. People that, and really what they were doing is posting pictures on the internet, because I'm going through research and analytics. I'm studying analytics. I'm studying, from Google Analytics to actual platform analytics. And I'm like, what am I doing? People were like, oh, can I pay you $250 a month to do my social media? And I'm like, dear God. So somehow it started with a Google search of finding out that diversity and inclusion was not going to be like this big thing, but it was just on a personal level. I was researching something, and I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, social media is so white. It's so white. It's so lean. It's so hetero. It's so cis. And there's people out there that doesn't relate to them. And our business is to tell a story that's a relatable story, so customers and consumers can form an emotional connection with a brand. So, I went with it, and I'd started, like, to this day, it takes a lot of studying. Like, I'm always digging into case studies. And so after about like a year of studying, I'm like, let me pitch myself to do a workshop. And people were just like, nobody wanted to hear it. People were like, you what? What? What is it? Social media? I'm like, but it's aligning your diversity and inclusion initiatives with social media. And people were just like, no. And then Jersey Shore Women in Tech took a chance on me, and they're like, sure, give a workshop. And so I was like, okay, great. And this was pre-COVID. This was I think late January of last year, before we went into shutdown. And I didn't, like, everybody was so engrossed in it. And not only that, but, because I was trying to give real world examples. I think people learn that way. And since then, it's evolved now. And of course, after George Floyd is when, then, like, it wasn't like I had to pitch myself. Like, the next day I got, like, a media call. And I'm like, oh, gosh. I'm like, oh, wait, I was doing so much pitching beforehand that
now they're coming to you.
Yeah. And, and it's something that, it's a passion within me, because I do think as storytellers, we are the ones that can help control the narrative and bring the stories to light that consumers aren't hearing. We help with representation. We can help brands. You know, brands don't realize, like, you're continuing to market to the same people with the same images. And yet, you know, I used to say, like, when I would meet with a brand, like, who's your target audience? And how many times do we hear this? Everyone.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
No.
and I say, no, it's not everyone. And now I'm like, well, then why is your social media so white?
Yeah.
You know, like,
No,
start.
it's so true.
And, you know, and I think that it's really important, you know, that for, as PR professionals, that we help brands amplify the stories of marginalized communities and voices that have never been heard. And once brands realize how much money could be made, and they realize, like, you got to take a look at the spending power of this
Yep.
community, you had to take a look at, they're making up a huge part of your target audience, and you're not marketing to them.
Yeah.
It's very, you know, it's a passion of mine. It's exciting. It's very hard to get research regarding social media. Specifically is where I look for it. So sometimes I'm creating this myself and
Yes.
documenting it.
Yeah. No, that's
And,
good.
you know, and so, but it's something that, you know, I firmly believe in. Yes, I do social media strategy, but I want brands that want to sell diverse and inclusive stories to their audience and are willing to do that and understand just how much it's going to make a difference, not only in credibility for brands, but how much it's going to make a difference on their bottom line.
Right.
Yeah. No, totally.
Big time.
Totally.
No.
And-
And as PR professionals, just having our clients realize that there is just an untapped level of information that they're not tapping in. Like, it's crazy that we as their PR professionals have to educate them on this, that when they're in big board meetings and they're, you know, thinking about their advertising goals or they're thinking about their big marketing calendar, that, like, the topic isn't coming up. And that, you know, because of, you know, our world is, you know, has a lot of angst right now, that, you know, a brand could make a little bit more comfortable if they kind of, like, sat in the power seat and realize that they could make a difference to a community that's underserved. So yeah, 100%. The agency that I just left, there's a date company called Julie's that took a chance on making their a very special product for Ramadan, and they're not owned by Muslims, they're not owned by anyone in the Arabic, you know, space, but they saw an opportunity, because when you break your fast in Ramadan, you break it with a date. And so they marketed to, you know, and they're doing great. And I was so fortunate for the past year to work with this girl, Janann, who came into Victory as kind of a director to kind of, like, add these special ideas and things. And even just saying the word special made me cringe a little bit, because it shouldn't be special. It should be ordinary. But we needed her insight, we needed her information, and she's just brought so much diversity to our group, which has been really eye-opening for me. And, you know, this brand kind of, like, took it, and they are, you know, and they're gonna expand it for next year, and, you know, and it's really great. So
That's amazing.
Underserved communities are the most
Yep.
loyal communities a brand could have.
100%.
And also their allies.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important. And even something as simple as that, I mean, they did tap into a niche market. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
great. And it was her, and Janann, who is, you know, Muslim American and celebrates Ramadan, she, you know, saw it as an opportunity for them. And she worked with them prior to even bringing them as a client to our agency. You know, she was an advisor to them, and, you know, and just taking that extra step, you know, it's remarkable. And even Motherly, who was now an old client of mine, they added some additional, they did a survey, their State of Motherhood survey, which is launching on May 5th, if anyone's interested. They added some nationalities to the survey so that you could identify better. You know, to see, you know, I'm a Caucasian woman. The Caucasian has always been there. I've always been able to check a box, but I didn't realize that there's so many women and men out there that don't have a box to check, and it's a shame, and it is very sad. And Motherly wanted women to feel heard, and they added, you know, quite a few different demos so that women for the first time could check this, you know, box that identifies them. I mean, it's huge. So I was so proud of them. And I hope to take that learning into my next agency to help them kind of reach these people that, you know, maybe their voice hasn't been, is being heard, but not that loud. So
And also the exclusion of, like, one thing about, diversity and inclusion is we're always so stuck on race when it's so much. So speaking of mothers, single moms are not represented.
They're not.
And, and it goes, then you break down the single moms. Okay, well, Black single moms are not represented. You go down that list and it's like, and you just, brands need to understand that when you showcase them, when you highlight their stories, then it becomes, that's where the emotional connection comes from. And you have to, right now we're fighting feeds that are content heavy. And that is how you stand out. Everybody wants the verified on their on their account to stand out, but what you don't realize it's the stories you tell, the diverse stories, the stories where you're including, marginalized groups, but you're breaking them down and then breaking them down to, down to the socioeconomics of everything. And it's so important.
So that's such great work that you're doing. And also with the PRSA, doing workshops to really educate PR professionals, and that's it starts there as well. So.
Yeah, we had a conversation yesterday based around changing. We shared a video of Verna Smith. I want to say her name is. I hope I don't get. She's the VP of Diversity and Inclusion for Netflix, and how that she brings the, she goes, I will call executives to the table and say, privilege is a superpower. How are we going to use it? And I'm like, there we go. We got to start changing the negative narrative around words. That, and so that's again, as our job as storytellers to do that and have these conversations, because it is our responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you for sharing. That's
Yes.
really
Thank you, Deirdre.
amazing what you're doing. So of course we end the Brand Groupies podcast with a challenge. And so, of course, this is the PR roundtable. So if your PR hustle was a song, what song would that be? Christina.
I have two. Mine is Juicy by Biggie, because it was all a dream.
I love it.
I used to read In Style magazine. No. And then my other is my high school quote was, girls just want to have fun. And I am a firm believer that if I'm having fun, my client's having fun, everyone's having fun, and if we're having fun, then it doesn't feel like work. And, so those are my two. So big up to Chris Wallace, and then Cyndi Lauper, girls just want to have fun.
I love it. I love it. We're gonna have a good mix at the end of the podcast. I don't know.
All three.
So, Lauren,
Want me to go next? Mine is The Distance by Cake, because it's all about endurance and determination, going the distance, driving and striving for your clients, going the marathon. I had a few other ideas, and then I texted Carey this morning. I was like, I have it.
Yes. I love
well, you always say it's a momentum.
It is a momentum.
Yeah,
That's
game.
your line.
Yes,
Yeah, it is.
it's so funny. Yes,
That's great. I love that. Awesome.
Mine is I don't know if it's a lesser known song, and it kind of came to me and just because it was in my head, but Bjork, It's Oh So Quiet, because PR, like, we are going, and then all of a sudden this lull hits, and it's like, it's oh so quiet, and then boom, and then like,
It's like a high and low, high and low.
It's that's exactly how I feel. Like what we do, it's when it's quiet, we're like, well, something's going to happen. But and it's just that's how our industry is.
I love that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Well, I love all the songs. And before we finish, I just want to. Does anyone want to plug any social handles, websites?
I'm at Gorini Girl on
Gorini
Instagram.
Girl. I love
if you
your
want to
stories.
if you want to check out my crazy 3-year-old and my
awesome.
podcasting football loving husband, come on over to the dark side. Go Chargers. My New Jersey living husband, his whole life is a Chargers fan. We have
so
no idea.
weird.
My son is too. So
I
we
know.
talked.
Yes, no,
Out of the blue. We don't know.
he was defiant against his father and didn't want to be a Giants fan.
Yes.
So here we are, but it's good. And he comes to this exact studio, and he also films his podcast. We're Talking Football. No, We're Talking Football. WTF? Thanks, Ming. But that's what I'm plugging.
Amazing.
I'll plug Brand Groupies.
Okay, yes.
Me.
Yeah.
And then
Bias to anything.
how about the Anti-Architect, our
Yes.
Clients Me podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
I saw that.
So
Yeah,
groupie form.
it's really good.
Gotta listen to Christian
Yep,
Giordano.
the Anti-Architect on all major
I
platforms.
love it. I love it.
Available now on all major platforms.
I am at Deirdre Lopian PR on all platforms. And, it's not only a plug, but it's an opportunity, especially for PR professionals that are listening and the ladies at the table, is the Public Relations Society of America New Jersey chapter. We're opening up our Pyramid Awards. Early entries May 3rd. So I'm going to be sharing that on my platforms as well as the PRSA and J platforms.
Amazing.
But, successful client stories, we want to hear them. You need to get, it helps brands get the award for it. And them, it's something you share with your client. I have one with Jess.
Awesome.
And so, we work really, really hard, and we're really bad at promoting ourselves and doing things for ourselves. That this, when I entered many years, but this was my first win, and it feels like it's just such a true testament to the hard work. And I'll be doing a webinar on the tips and secrets of how to do that with two of my colleagues.
Amazing.
Two of my colleagues.
Cool.
We're going to be doing a webinar and helping our colleagues understand what creates a winning entry.
Yes.
Because I've been working the awards for like 5 years.
That's
and been a
incredible.
judge. And so
That's
I want
amazing.
paying it forward and, wanting to see everybody else win and seeing your clients win.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I expect to see
Win-win.
entries from everybody
Yes.
at this
All right,
table.
well, thank
Yeah.
you. I know,
That's
PR
good to
forever.
remember.
Well, thank you
reminder.
so much, Christina, Deirdre, and Lauren. It's been awesome, and I
you.
feel like
Thank
so
you.
warm inside,
I
like
know.
my
I do too.
my PR girls.
Tribe.
I do
It's
too.
the best.
Love
So
it.
thank you so
Thank
much. This was
you.
so much
Thank
fun.
you.
You guys are
Ladies.
all amazing. So thank you
Awesome.
again.